AITA for a family feud over my childhood home, which my sister sold for our parents' care after I planned to buy it. The conflict revealed years of resentment, and has now torn our family apart. I am a 32-year-old man, a software developer with a comfortable but not extravagant life, and I am currently sitting in my car, staring at a picture of my sister and me from our childhood. We're maybe 7 and 9 years old, her with a missing front tooth and me with a bowl cut, laughing hysterically as we ride on my dad's back. That was us. Sarah and I, inseparable. She was always my protector, my second mother, and my co-conspirator in all things mischievous. Our bond wasn't just a sibling one. It was forged in the fire of our parents' old-fashioned, somewhat chaotic household. My dad, a blue-collar guy who worked long hours, was kind but emotionally distant, while my mom was a whirlwind of anxiety and love, her energy constantly directed towards keeping our family together, often at the expense of her own peace. Sarah, being the elder, took on a disproportionate amount of responsibility from a very young age. She was the one who managed the chore charts, made sure I did my homework, and organized family events. She was the anchor, the one who held everything together, and she carried that role with a kind of fierce pride that I always admired. I, on the other hand, was the creative one, the dreamer. While Sarah was planning our parents' retirement finances at 16, I was writing bad poetry and building elaborate Lego worlds. Our roles were defined early, and for a long time they worked. They created a balance, a symbiotic relationship where Sarah's grounded practicality complemented my more whimsical nature. I relied on her stability. She, I think, found a kind of vicarious freedom in my creativity. Our parents, in their own way, reinforced this dynamic. They'd often say, "Thank God for Sarah," and, "Our Mark, he's a free spirit." It wasn't malicious, but looking back, I can see how it laid the foundation for an unspoken hierarchy, a subtle power imbalance that we both grew into. Our parents' house, the one in the picture, was the heart of our world. It was a modest, 2-story home with a big backyard where we spent our summers. It was more than just a building, it was a repository of memories, a symbol of our shared history. My wife, Laura, and I had always talked about one day buying it from my parents. They had even semi-jokingly promised it to us. "When we're ready to downsize, you two will get first dibs," my dad would say with a wink. The plan wasn't concrete, but it was a dream we held onto, a future we were building towards. It was the place where I wanted to raise my own kids, a way to continue the story of my family. Sarah knew this. She was even excited about the idea, telling us how she'd love to see her nieces and nephews growing up in the house she grew up in. The idea of the house staying in the family was a cornerstone of our shared future, a promise that we would always have a place to come home to. Little did I know, that promise, that symbol of our past, would become the very thing that tore us apart. The cracks began to show about 2 years ago, after my mom had a minor heart scare. It was a wake-up call for all of us. The doctor's visit, the nervous nights in the hospital waiting room, the stark reality of seeing our parents frail and vulnerable for the first time, it shifted something fundamental in our family dynamic. My parents, who had always seemed invincible, were suddenly just two people in their late 60s who needed help. My dad, ever the proud provider, was the first to deny it. He insisted he was fine, that he could handle everything, but we all saw the strain in his eyes. Sarah, true to her nature, immediately stepped up. She began managing their appointments, taking over their household finances, and coordinating their medications. It was a natural progression of the roles we'd always played, and at first, I was relieved. Sarah was good at this stuff. She was organized, efficient, and she genuinely cared. The first red flag, in retrospect, was a subtle one. I suggested to Sarah that we should get a power of attorney and set up a joint bank account for our parents' expenses, just so we could both have visibility and shared responsibility. Sarah brushed it off, saying, "I've already got it covered. It's easier if I just handle it. You know I'm better with this stuff anyway." The phrase was a dagger wrapped in a familiar blanket. It was our old dynamic, but this time, it felt less like a partnership and more like an assertion of control. I let it slide, telling myself she was just stressed and doing what she thought was best. But the small, daily decisions became hers alone. She chose the new insurance plan without asking me, decided on a home care schedule for my mom without my input, and even started making plans for their retirement savings without so much as a phone call. I'd find out about these things from my parents, who would innocently mention, "Oh, Sarah handled that for us." The emotional distance grew, a slow, insidious creep. Conversations with my sister, which used to be filled with shared jokes and stories, became transactional. They were about my parents' health, finances, or appointments. When I tried to steer the conversation back to our lives, she'd seem distracted or sigh. "Can we talk about this later? I'm swamped." I started to feel like a visitor in my own family, an outside consultant rather than a true partner. The simmering resentment was mutual, though unexpressed. I felt like she was shutting me out, treating me like a child who couldn't handle the adult responsibilities. She, I'm sure, felt like I was absent, shirking the burden she was carrying alone. The silence between us, the unspoken assumptions, was a festering wound that we both pretended didn't exist. My wife, Laura, was the only one who saw it clearly. "Something is going on with you and Sarah," she'd say. "You need to talk to her." But I was a coward. I was afraid to disrupt the fragile peace, afraid to confront the unspoken truth that our childhood roles had become a cage, and we were both rattling the bars. The breaking point didn't come with a bang, but with the cold, hard reality of an email. I was on a conference call at work when my phone buzzed with a notification from a real estate website. It was an alert for a new listing in my old neighborhood. My heart skipped a beat, a mix of hope and nostalgia. I clicked it, my mind already racing with the possibility that it was a house for sale near my parents'. The thumbnail loaded, and I felt the blood drain from my face. It was our house. Our house. Listed for sale with a prominent, almost taunting, "for sale" sign in the picture. My parents' house. The house I was supposed to buy. I immediately called Sarah, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. She didn't answer. I called again. No answer. I left a furious, rambling voicemail, demanding an explanation. She called me back an hour later, her voice calm and controlled, which only fueled my rage. "Why is the house for sale, Sarah?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. "I can't believe you would do this without even telling me." She sighed, that same tired, dismissive sigh she'd used so many times before. "Mark, we need to talk about this in person. I tried calling you." It was a lie. My call history was clean. The argument, when it finally happened, was not in person. It was over a video call, so we could both see the hurt and anger in each other's eyes. I laid out my case, my voice cracking with emotion. "You knew we wanted to buy that house. You knew it was our plan. My parents promised it to us. How could you just go behind my back and put it on the market?" Her response was a slow, deliberate dismantling of my entire argument. "This isn't about your plan, Mark. This is about Mom and Dad's well-being. That house is old. It needs a new roof, new plumbing, a new foundation. The cost of renovating it would be astronomical, and they don't have the savings for it. They need a place where they can be safe, where there's no stairs to fall down, and where they have access to medical care. I found an amazing assisted living community. It's expensive, but it's the best option for them. The sale of the house will cover a good chunk of the cost and secure their future." My dream, she was telling me, was a selfish fantasy. I exploded. "You're acting like I'm a child. You've been making all the decisions for years, treating me like I'm not capable. Is this because you're still resentful that I got to go and do my own thing while you were stuck here taking care of everything? Is that what this is really about?" The accusation hung in the air, a truth that we both knew but had never dared to speak. She didn't deny it. "Someone had to be the adult, Mark. Someone had to be responsible. And it wasn't you." The words were a gut punch. My dream of the house, my relationship with my sister, our shared past, it all shattered in that moment. The moral ambiguity of it all was overwhelming. She was doing what she thought was best for our parents, a selfless act born of genuine love and concern. But she had done so by betraying a promise, and in doing so, had revealed a deep-seated resentment that had been festering for years. She was the hero in her own story, and I, in hers, was the irresponsible, selfish younger brother who just wanted a handout. And maybe, in a way, she was right. The weeks that followed were a blur of grief and anger. The emotional aftermath of the fight was like a physical weight, a suffocating blanket that I couldn't shake off. My mind replayed the conversation with Sarah on an endless loop, each word a fresh wound. "Someone had to be the adult, and it wasn't you." The words echoed in my head, fueling a cocktail of fury and self-doubt. Was I the child she always saw me as? Was I so caught up in my own dreams that I was blind to the needs of my parents? I felt a profound sense of betrayal, not just from her actions, but from the realization that the sister I thought I knew, the one who was my best friend, had been secretly resenting me for years. The foundation of our relationship, the very thing I had taken for granted, was a lie. The conflict didn't just affect my relationship with Sarah, it poisoned everything. My conversations with my parents became strained and awkward. They were stuck in the middle, and their guilt was palpable. My mom would call me, her voice heavy with a forced cheerfulness. "Your sister is just trying to do what's best, honey," she'd say, a plea for me to understand and forgive. My dad, ever the man of few words, would just say, "It's all a mess," and hang up. They were afraid to talk about the house, afraid to mention Sarah's name, and their silence was a constant reminder of the chasm that had opened up in our family. The dream of buying our childhood home, the one that Laura and I had built our future on, was gone. Every time I drove past our old street, I felt a physical ache in my chest. The house, our symbol of stability and continuity, was now just a symbol of everything I had lost. My mental health took a nosedive. I became short-tempered and distant. My work suffered, my sleep was restless, and I found myself isolating from my friends. My wife, Laura, was a saint through it all. She listened to me vent, she held me when I cried, and she was the only person who saw the raw, exposed nerves of my grief. But even our relationship was strained by the weight of it all. She was heartbroken for me, but I could also sense her own disappointment. She had been so excited about the house, about the dream of raising our family there. Now that dream was gone, replaced by a bitter family feud. I felt guilty for putting her through this, for a conflict that was entirely my family's making. The worst part was the gnawing sense of moral ambiguity. I knew Sarah wasn't an evil person. I knew she loved our parents and was trying to protect them. But her actions, her betrayal, her words, they felt so targeted, so personal. I was angry, yes, but beneath the anger was a deep, searing grief for the sister I had lost and the family I no longer recognized. So here I am, sitting in my car, staring at this old picture, trying to make sense of a mess that feels bigger than all of us. I've replayed that argument 1,000 times, and each time, I come to a different conclusion. On one hand, I feel completely justified in my anger. Sarah took away a dream that my parents had promised me. She made a unilateral decision about a major family asset without even the courtesy of a conversation, and then she insulted me, painting me as a selfish, irresponsible child. She assumed she knew best, and she acted on that assumption without any regard for my feelings or my role in the family. The betrayal is still a fresh wound, and I don't know if I can ever forgive her for it. On the other hand, a part of me, a small, quiet, rational part, can see her side. Our parents are getting older. They do need a safe place to live. The house is old and expensive to maintain. Sarah has been the one on the front lines, dealing with the daily realities of their aging, the doctor's appointments, the financial stress. Maybe I have been an absent brother, a distant dreamer who only showed up when it was convenient. Maybe I was so focused on my own dream of the house that I failed to see what was truly best for our parents. Is her control a manifestation of a genuine desire to protect them, born from a deep-seated fear that I wouldn't step up? Was her resentment a justified reaction to my perceived absence? I don't know if I can separate her motivations from her actions anymore. I've been advised by friends to just move on and focus on your own family. But it's not that simple. I want my sister back. I miss our late-night talks, our shared jokes, the feeling that she was always in my corner. But the person in my corner now feels like a stranger, a bitter, controlling woman who holds our family's future hostage. I don't know how to move forward. Do I apologize for my part in the argument, even though I believe her actions were unforgivable? Do I accept her decision and try to rebuild the bridge, even though the foundation has been shattered? Or do I just walk away, accept that our relationship is over, and grieve for the family I once had? AITA for being so focused on my dream that I couldn't see the reality of my parents' needs? And is she an AH for tearing down my dream to fulfill what she sees as her duty? I'm lost and I need some perspective. What would you do?